We're now going to have a look at jump lines. Now, jump lines, also known as chatter or stutters, are thin horizontal lines which form around the edge of the candle vessel, only really when you're using paraffin blends. Now, it's not necessarily aesthetically pleasing. This is due to the high temperature of the paraffin wax being poured into a relatively cold vessel. Even room temperature, the temperature differential between the hot wax and the cool vessel means that the wax will crystallize as it hits the jar. As you fill it up, those lines will just continue to appear as you go further up and finish your pour. Now, this is only really going to be an issue if you're using clear jars. Jump lines in themselves don't affect how the candle burns. It's not going to impede the performance of the candle. So if you don't want to have to deal with mitigating jump lines, using opaque or translucent or frosted glass will mean that you don't have to deal with it. If you are using clear glass and you want to get rid of jump lines, there are two methods of getting rid of it. The first one is to increase the temperature of the vessel before you pour it, therefore minimizing the temperature differential between the wax and the vessel. As you can see, if you heat the vessel up, it's not going to instantly crystallize as it hits the side of the vessel, so it's going to pour nicely and you're not going to get those jump lines. The other way of mitigating that is to actually pour your candle even hotter than you usually would. If you're pouring it at say 65-70 degrees, it could mean that you're pouring it 75-80 degrees. This gives the wax more heat energy so that as the wax crystallizes as it instantly hits the vessel, there is enough heat energy in the wax remaining to melt that wax as it crystallizes. So it remelts it and then you get that nice smooth poured effect. If you are going to be heating your vessel to mitigate the jump lines, there's a couple of different ways of doing it. You can use an oven, whether it's a tabletop oven or your oven at home on the lowest setting. You want to get the temperature to sort of 40-50 degrees. If you have pre-wicked your jars before you're putting these in the oven, you want it at a very low setting so you don't melt the wick wax on the vessel. You want to be using an air heater rather than a radiant heater. If you're using something like a heat gun, you have to be very, very careful that you don't soften the wax on the wicks too much before you actually start pouring it. If you soften the wax on the wicks, it could become detached from the sustainer, could become detached from the wick claw, and you will have problems with your candles later on down the line.